What if the most famous trial in history wasn't about justice, but about political survival? Let's go back to Jerusalem, 33 AD, a city simmering with tension, ready to boil over. And at the center of it all is one man, Pontius Pilate, the Roman prefect of Judea. His job description was simple: keep the peace, maintain Roman order at all costs. But on this particular day, that simple mandate would become an impossible choice. Pilate wasn't a king or an emperor. He was a mid-level bureaucrat, a governor in a notoriously difficult province. His world was one of strict, logical Roman law. You break the law, you face the consequence. But Judea wasn't Rome. Here, the law of the land was constantly clashing with the law of God. Religious fervor was the air people breathed, and during the Passover festival, that air was electric. Any spark could ignite a rebellion, and a rebellion would be the end of Pilate's career, and maybe even his life. This wasn't just another day at the office. This was a geopolitical powder keg, and a man named Jesus of Nazareth was the match. When Jesus was brought before him, Pilate didn't see a king of the Jews. He saw a problem. The local religious leaders wanted him executed. But, under Roman law, what was the charge? Inciting a riot. Blasphemy. Pilate's interrogation wasn't a search for truth. It was a desperate search for a legal off-ramp. He questioned Jesus. "Are you the king of the Jews?" Jesus' reply, "You say so," is anything but a straight answer. Pilate famously declares, "I find no basis for a charge against him." For a moment, it seems like Roman law will prevail. But this wasn't a simple courtroom. It was a three-way power struggle. You have Pilate, representing the iron fist of Rome. You have the Sanhedrin, the local religious elite, who see Jesus as a threat to their own authority and stability. And then you have the crowd, a restless, easily swayed mob whipped into a frenzy. Pilate tries to find a way out. He offers them a choice: release Jesus or release Barabbas, a known insurrectionist and murderer. It's a calculated gamble. Surely they'll choose the peaceful preacher over the violent criminal. But the gamble fails. The crowd roars for Barabbas. This is where we see the anatomy of hesitation. Pilate is trapped. His legal training tells him Jesus is innocent. But the political reality is screaming that condemning him is the only way to prevent a full-scale riot. He's caught between his duty to Roman justice and his primary mission to maintain order. This leads to one of the most iconic moments in history. Pilate washing his hands. He declares, "I am innocent of this man's blood. See to it yourselves." It's a powerful symbol, but it's ultimately an act of futility. He's trying to wash away his responsibility, to detach his personal conscience from his official act. But in the cold light of day, he's the one with the authority. He's the one who will give the final order. It's a failed attempt to navigate the impossible friction between his moral doubt and the brutal demands of imperial survival. The crowd knew exactly which nerve to press. They weren't just demanding a crucifixion. They were delivering a political threat directly to Pilate. If you let this man go, you are no friend of Caesar. Anyone who claims to be a king opposes Caesar. This was the kill shot. Being labeled an enemy of Caesar, especially under the notoriously paranoid Emperor Tiberius, was a death sentence for any Roman governor. An accusation like that, sent back to Rome from a rebellious province, would be the end of him. All his efforts to climb the political ladder, all his service to the empire, would be gone. At this political tipping point, Pilate makes a calculated risk assessment. On one hand, he could uphold justice, release an innocent man, and almost certainly face a massive riot. A riot would mean bringing in the legions, bloodshed in the Holy City during its most important festival, and a scathing report sent to the emperor. His career would be over. On the other hand, he could sacrifice one man, appease the local leaders, and keep the peace. The choice, from a purely pragmatic and career-oriented perspective, became brutally clear. The fear of being labeled an enemy of the emperor ultimately overrode any commitment to judicial process or the concept of innocence. He chose stability over justice. He chose himself over the man standing before him. So, Pilate gives the order. A single legal decree, issued under duress in a dusty provincial capital. But this verdict did something no one in that courtyard could have ever imagined. It didn't just end a man's life. It unintentionally set in motion a historical chain reaction that would reshape the world. This local execution, meant to quell a minor disturbance, gave birth to a movement. The story of this sacrifice, this perceived injustice, became the foundational story of Christianity. The immediate political fallout was, ironically, the peace Pilate wanted. The riot was avoided. Order was maintained. But the long-term consequences for the Roman Empire were catastrophic. This new faith, born from what Rome saw as a routine provincial execution, began to spread. First through the alleyways of Jerusalem, then across the Mediterranean, and eventually right into the heart of Rome itself. The movement that Pilate tried to extinguish by executing its leader would in a few centuries become the dominant religion of the very empire that killed him. A single afternoon of administrative cowardice, a choice made for political expediency, ended up triggering a complete shift in Western culture, law, and philosophy. 2,000 years later, Pilate's dilemma still echoes. We see it in leaders caught between doing what's right and what's popular. We see it in systems where political pressure outweighs moral integrity. Pontius Pilate is a man who likely wanted to be a minor footnote in Roman administrative history. He wanted to do his job, get promoted, and retire comfortably. Instead, his hesitation, his political calculation, and his final, fateful decision made him a central figure in human history, forever remembered for the one choice he tried so desperately to avoid. The tension of that trial between personal conscience and political power, between justice and order, continues to challenge us today, forcing us to ask ourselves, what would we have done? Thank you for watching. If you found this exploration of history compelling, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more deep dives into the moments that defined our world. See you next time.